Well, I'm glowing this morning in the sun because this weekend I got to check off a bucket list item and play with a real punk rock band. I've always loved punk rock. I actually started in a punk rock band with my buddies when I was 15 called Circle A back in Michigan. But this weekend the dream came true and I got to play a real concert with a real touring punk rock band. And so I'll tell you the story of how that came to be. The story actually kind of starts about a year ago when I made my last decision. My decision was to be done with decisions. I figured my first 40 years were about warring with the brain and suffering my indecision. And my next 40 years would be led by intuition, led by spirit. And how this plays out a year later is very interesting. So I started trying to listen to intuition this year. And one time this came up was in November. I was going to see a rescheduled concert from the COVID cancellations. One of my favorite all-time punk rock bands, AFI, in their hometown of Oakland. They were coming in November, and I was going to go see the show because I had tickets for years. But turns out that show was also on the same night as my mandatory men's circle third Wednesday, so I couldn't go. And as I was complaining about this to a buddy, he lifts up his shirt and shows me his AFI tattoo. And I was like, oh wow, well obviously you get the tickets. So I gave him the tickets to the show, and I got home that night and noticed, oh no, the men's circle third Wednesday is actually pushed off to the next week, and I could have gone to the show. And immediately something in my intuition was just like, go down there. And I was like, my brain started going, no, don't go down there. You've already spent $130 on these tickets. It's going to be hundreds of dollars to scalp for a sold out AFI show at the Fox in Oakland. That's ridiculous. But intuition was just like, go down there. So the next day I put on my punk rock threads. I just listened and I went down, and I was just kind of called right up to the front of the Fox. First person I see, I walk up to, just feel pulled to him, and I hear him say, I have an extra. And I stop him, I say, you have an extra ticket? And he goes, I do. I said, well, can I buy it off you? And he says, no. I'm like, please? And he's like, well, you can have it for free. And I said, are you sure? I'd be happy to pay you for it. He's like, it was free for me, it's free for you. And I was like, okay, all right, well, how'd you get it for free? He said, well, I grew up with the lead singer of AFI, Davey Havoc, and I'm a lead singer in a punk rock band myself. I'm like, really, what band? He says, Love Equals Death. And I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of you guys. You guys are on Fat Records. And he's like, yep, trying to get this guy standing next to me here, whose name was Brandon, to play bass in the band so I can stop playing bass and focus on vocals. And I said, well, if he doesn't want the job, I do. And I was just like, who said that? And the guy goes, well, I don't even have a car, so if you want the job, you should take it. I said, I'll take it. And I was like, who said that? I don't have time to play in a punk rock band. And so the guy says, well, look me up on Instagram. I've got to go take Davey Havoc's mom into the show right now, but let's be in touch. And so I'm laughing about it with buddies, having tacos, and like, maybe we're going to play bass in this band. And I go inside and I'm starting to watch the show, and I look down, and there's the lead singer of the band standing right there again. And so we start chatting, and we totally hit it off spiritually. And he's like, look me up on Instagram, man. I don't think we met by coincidence. And when I got out of the show that night, I turned on Love Equals Death on my phone. I started listening on the way to my car, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. It sounds like a mixture of AFI and Rise Against, some of my all-time favorite bands. And I get into the car, and I put the phone up on the holder, and the song that's playing is The Law of One. And I'm just like, because The Law of One is the spiritual text that blew me open 3-4 years ago, that shocked me out of 20 years of agnosticism and atheism into seeing consciousness and the creator in everything all the time. It's big for me. And I rewound the lyrics. I'm like, he couldn't be talking about the raw contact law of one. And I listened, I'm like, oh my God, he totally could be talking about this. So I wrote him on Instagram, and he writes back a day later saying, yeah, I'm talking about the raw contact. I'm totally into it. I told you we didn't meet by coincidence. And so we decided to have me try out for the band. Turns out the tryouts didn't actually happen. He got sick, and we couldn't make it up to Portland where the other half of the band lives. And so we had to do our first practice the day before our first show. And the amount of things that had to happen for this to come together, I had to just be listening. Like I was supposed to play another wedding, and then I was supposed to play my teacher, Aaron Abke's wedding down in Texas, but all those things didn't end up working out, and I had to just listen and be like, okay, well, Spirit's guiding me, I guess, to play this show. And even though we had no practice until the day before, so the band ended up driving down from Portland, and I ended up driving up to Ukiah, and we met in the middle there at Ukiah where the show was going to be, and we had our first practice the day before. Brand new guitarist, first guitarist from Rise Against, strangely enough, and me on bass, and Sean on the lead vocals and drums from Todd. And it's the first time we've ever actually played together. And then we went up on stage the next night at an axe throwing club. So like if the clients don't like the band, they can just throw axes at them, I guess. It's insane. Now, we were told that there would be no axe throwing during the concert. Totally not true. They were absolutely still throwing axes while we were playing. But apparently they liked us enough where they didn't axe us. But yeah, just amazing how it rolled out. It was more magical than I could have imagined. I channeled all of my vivacious energy into the show, and I felt really at home up there. So I'm gonna show you a video of how it turned out and what happens when we deeply listen to intuition and just follow the guidance, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense. Hope you enjoy. Go!